Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are going to start our chapter CPU scheduling. As the name suggests, it is about the schedule of the CPU to execute different processes in multi-programming environment. First come first serve. What a step. Evaluate the performance of these algorithms. First, we will see what are the CPU burst and input burst. CPU executes the processes in burst and input burst. When a process executes in the system, the execution starts with the CPU burst, and then after the CPU burst, input output burst is carried out. Then again, when the input output burst is carried out, CPU burst is carried out. The execution of the processes is basically a combination of two bursts, CPU burst. Now what is CPU burst? CPU burst is the time, the amount of time CPU executes a process. A processor executes a process. And input output burst is the amount of time the process for which the process performs input output operation. Input output operation. So execution of process on CPU is basically combination of two bursts, CPU burst and the input output burst. Process execution consists of a cycle of CPU execution and input output wait. A process alternate between these two states. Process execution begins with the CPU burst. The execution of the process begins with the CPU burst. This is shown diagrammatically how the process executes in the system. The process execution starts with the CPU burst, and after the CPU burst again the input output burst is carried out, and after the input output burst again the CPU burst is carried out, and then again after the CPU burst input output burst is carried out. So the process is executed basically in a combination of two types of burst, CPU burst and the input output burst. Now CPU schedulers. As we have already discussed about the CPU schedulers, CPU schedulers are the functions that selects a process from the ready queue to be executed on the processor. And we discussed in class, basically there are two types of schedulers, long-term schedulers and short-term schedulers. And in multi-programming environment, short-term schedulers are used. So schedulers are functions or routines that selects the process, to be executed by the CPU. And short-term scheduler selects the process from the ready queue. So whenever the CPU becomes idle, CPU is doing nothing, the operating system must select one of the processes in the ready queue to be executed. The selection of the process is carried out by the short-term scheduler. So the selection of the process, that which process will be carried out, this selection is made using the short-term schedulers, as we have already discussed in class. The scheduler selects a process from the processes in the memory that are ready to execute and allocates the CPU to that process. So scheduler is a function that selects the process to be executed on the CPU. And now basically the scheduling algorithms or scheduling schemes are of two types: preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling. Scheduling schemes are basically, scheduling algorithms are basically of two types. Basically of two types. Basically of two types. The preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling. First is preemptive scheduling and second is non-preemptive scheduling. First we'll see what is preemptive scheduling. Preemptive scheduling is when the process is being executed on the CPU and before the completion of the process, CPU may switch to the other process. In preemptive scheduling, when the process is being executed on CPU, the CPU may switch to other process before completion of the process, completion of the running process. This is called the preemptive scheduling. This is called the preemptive scheduling. And in non-preemptive scheduling, the CPU does not switch to the other process until the already running process is finished. So for the preemptive scheduling, CPU scheduling decision may take place under the following circumstances. The preemption may take place, the preemption of a process may take place under the following four circumstances. First is when a process switches from the running state to the waiting state. It means when a process switches from running state to the waiting state, the process switches from the running process to the other process. For example, if we say that there are two processes currently running into the system, process 1 and process 2. Process 1 and process 2. When process 1 switches from running state to the waiting state, the CPU start executing the process 2 before the completion of this process. Means CPU doesn't waste its time, time of the CPU is not wasted, and CPU, when the process 1 is waiting in waiting state, waiting for some input output, when process 1 is waiting for some input output, the time of the CPU is not wasted and CPU switches to other process. So preemption take place when one process switches from running state to the waiting state. Second, Preemption, second reason for the preemption is when a process which is from the running state to the ready state. When a process which is from the running state to the ready state means if some process is running and process 2 is running and interrupt occurs, and when interrupt occurs, the processor switches from this running process to newly coming high priority process. Suppose we use newly coming high priority process, then when interrupt occurs, this process 2 moves from running state to the ready state, moves from running state to the running state to the ready state, and processor CPU switches from process 2 to process 3, which is high priority process coming in case of interrupt. Now another case when preemption may take place is when a process switches from waiting state to the ready state. Suppose some process it was waiting for the input output, and when the input output is completed, the processes that has completed the input output will move to the ready queue, and in this case when a process completes its input output, the preemption may take place. The processor will switch to the process that has completed the input output. The fourth and final case is preemption may take place when a process terminates. So if a process P3 has completed its execution and it terminates, then processor will switch from process 3 to process 2 or some other process. So preemption may take place. The processor may switch from one process to the other process when a process terminates. So basically preemption is when a process switches from one process to the other process. Preemption is when a process switches from running process to an other process. So preemption is when a process switches from the running process to another process and leaves the running process and start running some other process. This is called the preemption. So now what is non-preemption? No preemption is processor does not switch to any other process until the running process is complete. This is called the no preemption. So we will study the algorithms, preemptive algorithms and non-preemptive algorithms in this chapter. In this chapter we will study preemptive and non-preemptive algorithms. In this chapter. And then we will evaluate the performance of these algorithms using some quality measures, using some performance measures, using some quality measures, or using some performance measures. Now, performance measures or quality measures are used to evaluate the performance of the algorithms. Now we will discuss the quality measures or the performance measures that are used to evaluate the performance of the CPU scheduling algorithms. Now CPU scheduling criteria means there are some performance measures that will be used to evaluate the performance of scheduling algorithms. These criteria show to which extent the CPU algorithm performs good or the CPU algorithm performs badly. So the first criterion that we are going to discuss is the CPU utilization. First criterion is CPU utilization. The CPU scheduling algorithm that uses maximum amount of CPU time is good algorithm, and the algorithm that doesn't use the CPU time much is not good algorithm. So we want to keep the CPU as busy as possible. Conceptually, CPU utilization ranges from 0 to 100%. In real busy systems, the CPU utilization is up to 90%, but in lightly loaded system, the CPU time is utilized up to 40%. And the algorithm that uses the maximum of CPU time, that the algorithm that uses the maximum CPU time, CPU is busy most of the time, that algorithm is good algorithm. That algo is good algorithm. Good. And the algorithm that doesn't utilize the CPU time is comparatively a not good algorithm. So the first criteria that is used, the first performance measure that is used to evaluate the performance of the algorithm is the CPU utilization. How much the CPU time is utilized, how much time CPU is busy in executing the different processes, and the algorithm that keeps the CPU busy more is good algorithm. The second scheduling criteria or second performance measure is the throughput. Throughput is number of processes executed per unit time. For example, in 500 milliseconds 5 processes are executed, or in 500 milliseconds 10 processes are executed. When in 500 milliseconds 10 processes are executed, this is higher throughput, and when in 500 milliseconds 5 processes are executed, this is lower throughput as compared to the processes executed as compared to the 10 processes executed in 500 milliseconds. So throughput is number of processes executed per unit time. A good algorithm will have higher throughput and a comparatively bad algorithm will have lower throughput. So throughput is the number of processes executed per unit time. If CPU is busy executing processes, then work is being done. One measure of the work is number of processes that are completed per unit time. Number of processes executed or completed per unit time is called the throughput. For the long process, this rate may be 1 process per hour, but for the short transactions it may be 10 transactions per second. So the throughput is the criteria or is the measure to evaluate the performance of the CPU scheduling algorithms. And other measure to evaluate the performance of the CPU scheduling algorithm is the turnaround time. Turnaround time is the time is the time the process takes in completion. The process takes to complete its execution. It is time from submission of the process to the completion of the process. Means it's time when the process enters into the system to the time when the process terminates. It's time from submission of the process to the process to termination. So turnaround time is the time the process takes to complete its execution. It's the time when the process is submitted into the system to the time process terminates. A good algorithm will have lower turnaround time. A good algorithm will have lower turnaround time and comparatively bad algorithm will have the higher turnaround time. So turnaround time from the point of view of the particular process, the important criteria is how long it takes to execute that process. How long it takes to execute that process, the interval from the time of submission of the process to the time of the completion. So it's the time from the submission of the process to the completion of the process. Sorry, this is repeated here again. The next criteria is the waiting time. The next performance measure that is used to evaluate the algorithm is the waiting time. Waiting time is the time that a process spends in ready queue waiting for the processor to be allocated. So it's the time that a process spends in ready queue waiting for the processor to be allocated. Suppose this is ready queue process 1, process 3, process 7, process 4, and currently processor is executing process 3 process 3, and now process 7 and process 4 and process 1 are waiting in the ready queue for their turn so that the processor may execute them. So this time does not include the time that process spends in input output queue waiting for the input output. This waiting times is the only time that the process spends in the ready queue waiting for the processor to be allocated. So this is the another criteria, and a good algorithm will have the lower waiting time. A good algorithm will have lower waiting time, lesser waiting time, and a bad algorithm will have a comparatively longer waiting time. The CPU scheduling algorithm does not affect the amount of time during which the process executes or does input output. It is effective only the amount of time that a process spends waiting in ready queue. So it's the time that a process spends waiting in ready queue. Waiting time is the sum of the period spent with waiting in the ready queue. Waiting time is sum of all periods. We will see this when we will calculate it practically in our next slides or in our next lectures maybe. Another and last CPU scheduling criterion or CPU scheduling performance measure that is used to evaluate the performance of the CPU scheduling algorithm is the response time. Response time is the time that a process spends in ready queue to be dispatched for the first time. To be dispatched to CPU for the first time. So a good algorithm will have lower response time. A good algo will have lower response time, and a bad algorithm will have higher response time. So response time is time that a process spends in ready queue for the first time to be allocated by the processor. Actually, process is executed by the processor in multiple dispatches. So when the process is dispatched for the first time, and before being dispatched for the first time, the amount of time that process has spent in the ready queue is called the response time. We will calculate in our next slides and it will be more clear to you. In an interactive system, turnaround time may not be the best criteria. Often a process can produce some output fairly early and can continue computing new results while previous results are being calculated or computed. So these are the 5 performance measures. These are the 5 criteria that are used to evaluate the performance of any CPU scheduling algorithm. Now we are going to see our first CPU scheduling algorithm, and that is first come first serve FCFS algorithm, first come first serve. As its name is indicating, and with this algorithm the process that requests the CPU first is allocated the CPU first. Means the process that requests for the CPU first is executed by the CPU first. It is non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. It is non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. So first come first serve scheduling by far is the simplest CPU scheduling algorithm. Is the first come first serve scheduling algorithm. With this scheme, the process that requests the CPU first is allocated to the CPU first. Now we will take an example how the processes are scheduled using first come first serve scheduling algorithm. So example, suppose there are some processes running into your system and that number of processes are 4. Process number, process 1, process 2, process 3, process 4. This number can be any number. There can be 10 processes running into your system. There can be 5 processes running into your system. We are supposing that currently there are running 4 processes are running into your system. Now burst time. Burst time, as we discussed, is the time that amount of time the processor is executed on the CPU is called the burst time. Suppose the burst time of the process 1 is 7 millisecond and burst time of the process 2 is 4 millisecond and the burst time of 3 is 2 and the burst time of process 4 is 10 millisecond. And now arrival time is the time at which the processes have arrived. Suppose process 1 arrived first and its arrival time was 0 second and its time was 1, 2 and 3. This time may be different. Now we will make the Gantt chart for these processes. Gantt chart. To make the Gantt chart, we are going to draw the line here like this. 0, this is the time on this axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so on. And now process 1 arrived at 0. Process 1 arrived at 0, time 0. Process 1 is arriving at time 0. Process 1. And process 2 is arriving at time 1. Process 3 is arriving at time 2. Process 4 is arriving at time 3. So these are the sequence or arrival time of the processors. First, according to this algorithm, the process that arrives first is executed first. Here the process that arrives first is P1. So execution of P1 will start, and it will take 7 milliseconds, so it will go up to 7 milliseconds. This. And as it is non-preemptive algorithm, once the execution of P1 will be started, the processor will not interleave. Processor will not switch to other process until P1 is complete. So P1 is now complete. Now after P1, P2 arrived. So P2 arrived before P3 and P4. So P2 will be executed, P2 will be executed. P2 will take 4 milliseconds, so 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the process 2 has terminated process 2. Now after process 2, process 3 arrived at time 2. So it's turn for the process 3 to be executed. Process 3 will be executed here. Process 3 will take 2 milliseconds. So 1 and 2. Process 3 has been executed. Now the process that arrived last is the process 4. So process 4 will be executed. Process 4 will take 10 milliseconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So here process 4. This is how the processes are executed in first come first served scheduling algorithms. Now we will evaluate this algorithm according to the criteria we discussed in our previous slides. The first criteria was the response time. We will calculate the response time. Then we will calculate the waiting time. Sorry, just all need to be response time. Then we will calculate the waiting time. Then we will calculate the turnaround time. This is turnaround time. So to calculate the response time is the time when process arrived into the system and was waiting in the ready queue to be dispatched by the processor for the dispatch to the processor for the first time. So process 1 arrived at time 0 and it was first time dispatched at time 0. So the response time is 0. Actually in non-preemptive algorithm, the response time and waiting time is the same. The response time will be more clear when we will discuss the non-preemptive scheduling algorithms. And the waiting time, when we will calculate the waiting time of process 1, the waiting time of the process 1 is 0. Process 1 has not been waiting for the processor. It arrived and it was allocated the CPU at the same time. So that is turnaround time for the process 1 is process 1 arrived at time 0 and it was completed at time 7. So 7 minus 0 is 7. Turnaround time is 7. It took 7 milliseconds to execute process 1. So now for the process 2 arrived at time 1. Now the response time, first time it was dispatched to the CPU, it was dispatched at the 7 and it was arrived at 1. So 7 minus 1, 6. The dispatch time and the arrival time. 7 minus 1, dispatch time minus arrival time. So response time is the 6, and as we discussed that in preemptive scheduling algorithm, the response time and waiting time are the same, so the waiting time is also the 6. Now what is the turnaround time? Process 1 arrived at 1 and it completed on 11, and as we discussed that turnaround time is the time that process spends in the system from the submission of the process. Submission is arrival is at 1 and completion is at 11, so 11 minus 1, 10, so 10 is the turnaround time. Now for the process 3 arrived at time 2 and it was first dispatched, or it was dispatched at 11, so that waiting time and the turnaround time will be 11 minus 2, that is 9. And now what is the dispatch time, what is the turnaround time? Turnaround time in process 3 is arriving at 2 and it is completed on 13, so 13 minus 2, 11 is the turnaround time, the time from the submission to time to the completion. Now for the process 4 arrived at 3, and it was first dispatched at 14 minus 3 is 11 is the waiting time, and the turnaround time is process is completed at 23 and its arrival time is 3. 23 minus 3 is 20. This is the turnaround time. So now we can calculate the average waiting time, average response time and average turnaround time from this data. This is how the processes are executed in first serve scheduling algorithm.